We are back and live. It's been a couple of weeks since I got a chance to be able to spend any time with you guys, but I had an experience. It was unbelievable, probably one of the greatest experiences of my life, because as a father, especially to a son, you have the tendency to think like, oh my gosh, I got to do right. I got to make sure that he's prepared. I got to make sure that he's a man, that he's making the right decisions, all these things. And all I heard in my head the next morning after this phenomenal experience was, I've got him. I've got him. And what God was telling me is, you could do all these things, but I've got your son. I'm going to carry him. Well, see, we got a chance to be able to go to a Forrest Frank concert. And if you have not taken your son to a Forrest Frank concert, or you have not listened to the music of Forrest Frank surfaces with your son or your daughter, I tell you, it is one of the most incredible experiences. My son's been listening to this music surfaces for probably about 2.5 years, and it's all positive music. It's all about God. It's all about, but it's pop music. And this is a positive message. And let's be serious. A lot of us don't get that through our music. Even with myself, I grew up on 90s hip hop. I like to turn on some music in the car, but sometimes I have to turn it off because my kids are in the car with me. And with Forrest Frank and with Surfaces, it is literally, it's all about having a good day, about doing the right things, about, glorifying. It's amazing. Well, we got a chance to be able to go to the concert here in San Diego. And I was thinking, yeah, we're going to get there maybe an hour early, whatever. We got there probably an hour and a half early, and there was a line wrapped around the block, snaking through the little courtyard. It was unreal. Over 1,200 people there. And as I started to look around, there was people with shirts on that said, like, God is good and all these things. And I was like, man, we're in a different kind of feel. I thought this is a pop concert, has a hit song out with Connor Price, and, it's on the radio and all these things. But we got in there, and my son was so hyped, excited. I was kind of worried about him, because we were on the floor, and I was wondering if he was going to get nervous from being close. And as we get up close, we're there, and the music comes on and starts going, and my son loses his mind. Well, through the concert, he knows every lyric to every song, and he's jumping up and down. And this guy is standing on stage as a pop artist with 1,200 people at the observatory in San Diego, and he's praising God. And I'm standing behind my son at 12 years old, or he was 12 years old at the time and just turned 13. And there's songs that come on, and there's one song called I Lift My Hands. And my son starts lifting his hands and praising God at a concert. And I'm like, this is the greatest moment in the world. And what God softly whispered to me at that time, in the midst of all this chaos, is, I've got him. I've got him, and I'm going to carry him through. He's safe with me. You see, I've had some of the greatest experiences, been at UFC fights, like right on the cage. I've been at the, 40-yard lines at the Titans game when we beat the Chiefs. Take that, Rick. And Patrick Mahomes got shut out and had no touchdowns, one of the only games in his career. I've been to those experiences, but all of them pale in comparison to Forrest Frank, and not just the concert or the music, but standing behind my son, watching a 12-year-old, hands up in the air, praising God at the highest level of his lungs. As hard as he could shout, he was shouting. And then hearing that from God saying, I've got him. So today, our proverb takes us right down that line, and to realize that we just need to relax, and whatever we give him, he's got. Why don't we get this party started?
Nothing more on my mind. I got two shines, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
I have been waiting to get back here to hang out with all of you guys and be here in the studio and be on the podcast. I haven't been able to record for the last couple of weeks because I've been on the road. I had an incredible time. Got to be at Secret Knock, the #1 networking conference in the world. I co-host that with my partner, Greg Reed. It was unbelievable. It was the best Secret Knock that we've ever done. And I tell you, if you have not got to Secret Knock, it is a game changer. It's going to be in March. It's the #1 networking conference in the world that you can't go to unless you're invited. But since you're listening, I have the invitation. So make sure that you reach out to me. I also got a chance to go to NiftyCon, the #1 conference for digital marketing for attorneys. And I got to do the keynote there, and we talked about the vibe. And, this vibe that I speak of, it was not the energy that you bring into the room, but it was simply the way that people felt when you left. And this conference was on fire. Got a chance to be able to meet Justin Miller, Madeline Simmons. These are two top attorneys in Atlanta, incredible human beings. They represented George Floyd, and they do a lot of not only personal injury, but they do a lot of civil rights cases also, and it was incredible. And then I got a chance to come home and speak at the Masters of Balayage Hero event retreat here in San Diego, and again deliver the vibe. Like, again, it's not the energy that you bring into the room, but it's the way that people feel when you leave, the way that they are connected and moving. That's what has been so amazing. And I can't even imagine that that would be my job, right? And so I was telling my son, I took him with me, my son Maddox, and he wanted to sell books, and he's like, I want to go, Dad. And he's like, what are you doing? Because I said, I got to do some work. He said, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm going to speak to the people, and, I deliver a keynote. That's what I do. And he's like, you get paid to yap? Well, yes, your dad gets paid to yap, and I'm very fortunate and very happy that I get a chance to be able to do that. And again, to be here with you guys and spend time with you guys on the podcast. So if you were at NiftyCon, I want to welcome you to the podcast. If you're at Hero, the Hero Retreat, I want to welcome you. If you're at Secret Knock and you're now just tuning into the podcast, it's amazing. We think of it like a TV channel, so there's a couple different shows. #1, I interview some of the most iconic people in the world. They give advice to my kids by name. We have this, which is called Inchstones. So it's not the milestones, just little tiny Inchstones, about 15, 20 minutes that you could take me on your walk. And we go through 3,000-year-old wisdom and how it can apply to today. So we go the corresponding proverb, corresponding day. And then we have a show called You Have to Meet My Friends. And I go live and I call my friends randomly, and they don't know that they're on the podcast till they're actually on it. So those are the 3 shows that you'll see, when you tune in. So I want to thank you guys for that, and I want to hop right in. Proverbs 8. In this proverb, it was all about like, relax. I've got him. And this was a word that God said to me and let me know of, because, as a dad of a 12-year-old son and a dad of a 15-year-old girl, a lot of times I think like, what am I going to do? Am I doing the right thing? Am I putting them in the right positions? And what God let me know is just relax. I've got him. And that happened because of that Forrest Frank concert. I'm wearing his shirt today, Child of God. And if you're watching, make sure that you subscribe, that you do a comment, all those things. And if you're listening on Apple, I'm describing a shirt that I have on that says Child of God. And people, it's a conversation starter, but it's a tour shirt for Forrest Frank. And if you haven't listened to him, make sure you listen to him. I want to have him on the podcast. So if you have any connection point with him, I'm going to be hitting him up anyway, cold calling him and making sure that he comes on, because he's an iconic person to my son. And I'd love for my son to see that Forrest Frank is not an idol. He's just an icon that you could be inspired by. So let's go right to Proverbs 8. I'm going to throw my glasses on too, because sometimes I need to be able to do that. So in Proverbs 8, this is a call out for us to listen and relax, because he's got you. And no matter what situation you're in, if you're on the mountaintop right now, want to celebrate you. If you're on the mountaintop in your personal, your professional, your spiritual, or your financial life, I want to celebrate you. But also for you to realize that you won't live on the mountaintop for your whole entire life. There's going to be times where you're on the mountaintop, and there's going to be times where you're in the valley. And on those in the times of the valley, It's so imperative that we know and we relax and realize that God has got us even in that moment. The first one here is that He loves you and just wants your attention. So I think a lot of us grow up with an image of God and our relationship with Him, and it's like, a lot of times it mirrors the relationships, most of the time negative, which is sad, of our relationships with maybe an authority figure or a parent or whatever it was. And sometimes, you had a really strict dad, so you think God is strict to you. You had a person or, a parent or an uncle or aunt or whoever it was that didn't really encourage you. So you think like, oh man, I have to earn. And then your God becomes the person that you have to earn things from. But what I want to tell you of is that God just loves you. He's full of love. He's full of joy. He's full of peace. He's full of forbearance. Like he absolutely loves you and all He wants is your attention. He doesn't need all your duties. He doesn't need all the things that you have to do or the things that you think you should do. He just simply needs your attention. And when He has your attention, it's amazing what can happen. And no matter what, or no matter where you are, He will meet you there. So if you're in the nastiest place that you've ever been in your life, you're having a failure. I had a failure a while back. I talked about it. I got a chance to partner with a guy named Vanderlei Silva, one of the greatest UFC fighters in the whole entire game ever in the UFC. And I got the opportunity to partner with him on a product. Well, the product actually flopped huge. But when they sent me the product, the manufacturer, they sent me out another product and said, why don't you try this one? And I was like, yeah, whatever. And I threw it off to the side. And here I thought my meal ticket was the Vanderlei Silva partnership because it was just going to take off. This was like hitting the lotto. But that one didn't work. It was a failure. But in the box, there was another product, and it was this one here. This one here is called BLING. It's called BLING Shine Serum. It adds moisture, strength, and shine to the hair, skin, and nails. #1 product in our whole entire company. #1 seller that ever has been for me. But it happened because of a mistake and because of a failure. And now it's amazing because what God wants you to know is that He's going to meet you exactly where you are. And He doesn't care where you are at the time. He's going to meet you there. He's not going to ask you, oh, you got to do all these things, then you can come hang with me. And the other part that He wanted us to know is that He has when we have a relationship with Him, it's a guaranteed ROI. In business, I was intimidated by this because I heard ROI and I was like, well, what does ROI stand for? Return on investment. Now, some of you guys already know exactly what that is. And when I said ROI, it clicked right away. But I used to take myself out of conversations or feel intimidated at times because I didn't understand the language of the culture that I was around. And when someone in business would say ROI, I didn't understand it. Then I Googled it and found out that it was just return on investment. And imagine if you had a guaranteed ROI or a guaranteed return on investment, which is very, very seldom in business, in life, in relationships. But imagine if you had a guaranteed one. And the return on the investment of time that you spend with the Lord, it's amazing what will be able to happen. And it's exponential. And when they talk about 10X, you hear about this all the time in today's society and social media. I'm going to 10X this, I'm going to 10X that. Imagine if you could 100 million, 1,000X something. Well, that's what happens when you start spending time with the Lord. Another thing that He talked about in verse 20 or 12 through 21 was the great company makes things easier. And I've been a testament to this throughout my entire life. When you have great friends, you don't have to be anything. You just simply get to be yourself. And when you're yourself, no one can compete. And that puts you in a place where when there's no competition, it's incredible what can happen. And so in verse, it ran down that in verse 12 through 21 in Proverbs 8, great company makes things easier. And what I would tell you, and I would just beg of you, is look at your friends. Look at the people that are around you and start making friends out of everybody. My pop said this. He said, you never know where someone's from. You never know where they're going, and you never know where you'll meet up with them again. So make a friend out of everyone. And when you do that, it frees you up to just be yourself, because I have some of the greatest friends in the world. At Secret Knock, I got to interview Jeff Fried, who is the CEO of SneakerCon. I got to interview Larry Namer, the founder of the E! Entertainment Network. Got a chance to sit down with Ethan Evans, who invented Amazon Prime and was a vice president with Jeff Bezos. And now I don't have to be that, but I can call on my friends when I need that, when I need some advice as far as marketing. Imagine being able to sit down with Ethan Evans. Imagine if I had, thoughts or ideas about entertainment. And I got to talk to the guy who created E! Entertainment, discovered the Kardashians. It's a friend. So when you surround yourself with these friends, you imagine a Jeff Fried, who is one of the baddest men in branding that you can imagine, in personal development. One of my best friends, Greg Reed. So I can call on these people, and I just have to be myself. And I want to encourage you. You can be yourself when you put yourself around great people, and when you have great company, it makes things easier. In verse 22 through 31, it was very, very simple in this, and it just said, check the receipts. Check the receipts. Because all the things that God claims, if you check the receipts, and you check the receipts in your life, you list them out, and you list all the blessings, all the times when you thought that there was, I don't know what's going to happen. And then he was simply whispering to you, relax, I got you. I'm going to carry you through. How many times there was a life and death situation of that, what you thought, and now you look back on it and you kind of laugh and say, like, why was I even stressing? And in verse 32 through 36, it just finishes up this way. Listen to his call, relax, and know that he's got you. And see, probably one of the toughest things is to realize that stress in your life is not going to add anything to you. Nothing. It won't add any time. It won't add any greatness, nothing. All it'll do is just add a little bit of stress to your life. And it'll actually take your focus off of all the great things that are happening around you. See, I was stressing that way because as a dad, again, of a 12-year-old son, when I went to the concert of Forrest Frank, I was looking and saying like, oh, how can I raise my son in the right way? What can I say? What can I do? And then while we sat in and we listened to that music, God said, just focus on me and relax because I've got him. And in all the experiences that I've had, which is really, I've been very fortunate to be around some really cool people and have some amazing experiences. Probably one of the top experiences in my entire life was not flying around the world, was not staying at great hotels, was not getting this or getting that. What it was standing behind my 12-year-old son as he raised his hands in the air and God whispered to me, relax, I've got him. So I want to encourage every one of you today that no matter where you're at, he's got you. No matter where you are, he'll meet you there. And what I would challenge you today is to write down the challenges that you have, write down the valley that you're in, write down the details of it, but also take the time and write down some other valleys that you have been in and how you've been able to come out of them. And most of the time people say, oh, it came out of the blue. The blessing came out of the blue. No, it didn't. It came right from him because he wants you to know to relax because he has you. This has been Proverbs 8, the corresponding proverb for the corresponding day. I hope you have a phenomenal day today. Listen to some Forrest Frank. Definitely do that. Subscribe and comment on the podcast. I love you guys so much. My name is Kelly Cardenas, and I'm officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and soul.